What's up, guys? Welcome back to some more bolt action here as we keep making our way through the Market Garden book. So this next scenario here is called Crossing the Waal, which maybe we're not pronouncing 100% correctly, but close enough, right? W-A-A-L. So this is the river, and of all the actions that one might expect the airborne to do, crossing a river under fire is probably the least likely thing here, as it says, except that's what happened at Nijmegen. Again, pronunciation probably a little off there. So the Americans of the 504th Regiment there, Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 82nd Airborne, basically did that, and that's somewhat similar to what was shown in Bridge Too Far. So again, just kind of paraphrasing a little bit here just to keep things simple, but basically this is a opposed river crossing, and so that's what we will have here. So, and as it says here, about 20 boats set out initially, 13 made it to the other side, dropped about 120 men, and then those attacked the Germans. So this is a funky deployment zone here, so if we can get this to not have any glare for you guys. So we got the German deployment zone, which takes up a fair bit of the board there. You got the embankment, and then the Allied deployment edge is that little strip here, partially along the long table edge, but not the entire thing, of course. So force-wise, the German player has a force of 6 squads, each of 5 riflemen with an NCO, with an SMG, as well as 4 MMG teams. That's actually quite spicy there, and a command group of a lieutenant and 2 riflemen. A platoon consisting of a command group, lieutenant, and 1 man, and 3 9-man squads, each with 1 LMG and SMG becomes available at the start of turn 3. So you got very specific forces for this, so double check what you have available if you want to attempt this one, or you might have to make some modifications. They can enter the table at any point along the northern edge, long edge of the battlefield without an orders test. The Americans, in contrast, start with 10 squads of 12 men, so that's a beefy requirement for the Americans to have there, right? 120 dudes. As per the U.S. Paratrooper Force Selector, 4 platoon command groups, first lieutenant and 2 men, as well as a company HQ of 3 men, including Major Cook. Further wave of 3 squads and 2 platoon command groups arrives in turn 4, subject to the usual bolt action provision for reinforcement. So in contrast to some of the previous missions that we've seen so far in the book, this one definitely has is a little bit more sizable, right, when you got 100 plus guys for the Americans as requirement. So, that being said, and also not just any old Americans, but right, airborne troops. So, that being said, game setup. So, for wargame purposes, we don't really need to physically represent anything more than the area from the point at which the Americans land on the north bank of the river and make their assault toward the north ramp of the bridge. The southern long edge of the board represents a strip of bare sandy riverbank on the north edge of the river. A beach to all intents and purposes. There's no need to represent either the river or the bridge as such, just the embankment that leads up to it. So, then on deployment, sorry for moving that around so much for you guys, but trying to get the glare out. First wave of U.S. troops enters the table with an advance or run order, run move out of the boats and onto the river bank. All the German troops start the game in trenches within 36 of the bridge embankment, and 2 of the MMGs must be located on the embankment itself. These are considered to be the checkpoint positions for the bridge and cannot be moved at any time other than by destruction or foobar. And basically what the Americans have to accomplish in this one, they must seize the north ramp of the bridge before the Germans demolish it. All the boats must land at least 12 from the bridge embankment and not less than 3 inches apart. Then a game here, this one is actually just going to last the standard 6 turns, although there are some victory conditions that might modify that. And then speaking of which, how do we achieve victory for each side here? So the Americans must destroy all German units within firing range of the bridge, but for the purposes of the game, we assume that German engineers on the bridge are frantically trying to set off the massive explosives that they have put in place. If the Americans have failed to clear the bridge embankment by the end of 5, roll a d6, and a 1 means the German engineers have fixed the problem. Roll the d6 again. 1 or 2, the bridge is blown, and Market Garden has been stopped in its tracks, so victory for the Germans. If not, you repeat it at the end of turn 6, and then a 1 to 4 means the bridge is going to blow up. 5 or 6, the engineers did not, basically, as the British then roll up and help out. So, pretty simple result here. So, although a lot of it does tend to come down to a die roll, although, again, if the Germans are completely wiped out, then that essentially leads to an American victory. So a fun one to try, definitely a bigger game than what we've seen so far with some of these smaller landings, and a little bit more like a traditional bolt action game in that sense. But again, with some very specific force requirements on each side, as well as some rough terrain requirements for you as well. So again, just kind of coming back to what the deployment zone looks like for you guys there. Let's get that organized. So again, Germans anywhere in that area. Some of them do have to be deployed in the embankment, and then the Allies are just kind of landing on there as well. So could be interesting and worth trying out, but again, definitely a fair bit of requirements, right? Again, reiterating, Americans need to bring at least 120 guys. If you have that in your collection, you might. If you don't have access to all of that, you might see about like just cutting both sides in half as far as what they have available, and then seeing if that's a little bit more doable. But even then, you're still looking at 60 plus guys for the Americans alone, and then a fair bit for the Germans still. So let us know, guys, in the comments if you have tried this one or something similar with a bridge crossing. A little bit different than maybe like your typical D-Day scenario setup, but does have some similarities with all the assault boats. But let us know, guys, in the comments what your thoughts are on the scenario. Does this one seem a little bit more balanced between both sides? Have you tried this one? What have the results been? And have you made any modifications to it? Like and subscribe, guys. We'll have more coming for you here as we keep making our way through Market Garden. Take care.